Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Carmine's Arena, a cultural gourmet of information, if you will, a feast for your mind and soul. And now, without further delay, the man, the myth, the maestro, Carmine Arena.
Greetings, and welcome once again to Carmine's Arena, site of contest and conflict, venue for and of resolution. Resolution in terms of focus, remedy, and commitment, both yours and mine, to the preservation, the propagation, and indeed the celebration of Western civilization. The French are a breed given over to subtlety. In pithy phrases, pages of explanation are done away with as if by linguistic evaporation. One such phrase, and a favorite, is esprit de l'escalier, which translates to the wit of the stairs. This expresses the predicament of thinking of the perfect reply too darn late, descending the grand staircase, ready to leave the party when one suddenly thinks of just the appropriate witticism that would have bested a boast or compound put down, sans rebound now, of course, lost of the vantage ground. French gatherings at salon venues were customary arenas for sharp-tongued repartee. To be quick on one's feet would be worthy of a tableau vivant. A memorable riposte would be quoted for days after the lavish event, sometimes even later to be found in newsprint. This episode of Carmine's Arena is going to be filled with historic comebacks that all of us wished we had the wit and whim to send off to a proper and deserving victim, plus quips, epigrams, and bon mots, in short salvos. Let's start with Calvin Coolidge, an American president dubbed Silent Cal. A woman approached the commander-in-chief and confessed that she had made a bet against a fellow who said it was impossible to get more than 2 words out of you. His response, "You lose." Going one step further than even the French in subtlety was Coolidge exercising wordless wit. Please attend to this wordless maneuver. The president was going to be joined for breakfast by a constituent. The latter, who was very nervous at the prospect of meeting Mr. Coolidge, was invited to relax by the chief of protocol. "Just do everything he does," said the official. When he entered the White House breakfast room, he was escorted to his seat opposite his host. Coolidge wordlessly poured from a teapot a quantity of tea, then milk, into his saucer, which he had removed from under his cup. Following so-called protocol, his guests did the same, only to observe Silent Cal now bending down to give the saucer to his cat. George Bernard Shaw, who liked having the last word, was bested by Winston Churchill. When Shaw attempted an indirect insult, Shaw wrote to Churchill, "I have reserved 2 tickets for opening night, and bring a friend if you have one." The Prime Minister's reply was equally terse. "Impossible to come first night. will come the second night, if you have one. Another worthy quote was the one to Lady Astor. Winston, if you were my husband, I'd poison your tea. He replied, Nancy, if you were my wife, I'd drink it. Calvin Coolidge versus an opera singer. What did you think of my execution? He replied, I'm all for it. Another put down to a vocalist came from Miriam Hopkins. The singer said to Miriam, you know, my dear, I insured my voice for $50,000. Hopkins' comeback was, that's wonderful. And what did you do with the money? Like Chase versus an anonymous actress. Ilka Chase, that is. I enjoyed reading your book, Miss Chase. Who wrote it for you? Chase's answer, darling, I'm so glad that you liked it. Who read it to you? An English parliamentarian. Sir, I do not know whether you will die on the gallows or of the pox. His peer replied, that will depend, my lord, on whether I embrace your principles or your mistress. Noel Coward said to Edna Ferber, you look almost like a man. Her riposte, so do you. Congressman Clay, a way back when remarked, I would rather be right than president. A Congress Reed replied, the gentleman need not trouble himself. He'll never be either. During a debate, Douglas called Lincoln two-faced. Good old Abe replied, I leave it to my audience. If I had another face, do you think I'd wear this one? After an audience member ranted against university education, and thank God that he had never been corrupted by going to college, Chief Justice Fuller asked, do I understand the speaker thanks God for his ignorance? The audience member's response was, well, yes, if you want to put it that way, at which juncture Fuller's retort was, then you have a deal to be thankful for. Mark Twain entertained this quip, there are many humorous things in the world, among them the white man's notion that he is less savage than the other savages. Oscar Wilde, some cause happiness wherever they go, others whenever they go. Abe Lincoln, once again, better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. Marilyn Monroe, women who seek to be equal with men lack ambition. This one from Cher. Excuse me. The problem with most women is that they get all excited about nothing, then marry him. The actress Lillian Gish, dueling with an ogre, said to him, young man, if God wanted you to see me that way, he would have put your eyes in your belly button. The great poet, truly great, was William Blake, who said, thy friendship oft has made my heart to ache. Do be my enemy for friendship's sake. I didn't attend his funeral, said Mark Twain, but I sent a nice letter saying I approved of it. Churchill, back again, states the following. He has all the virtues I dislike, and none of the vices I admire. Joan Rivers on Boy George. He's another English queen who can't dress. Once again, Joan Rivers, this time about Michael Jackson. The whole Michael Jackson thing was my fault. I told him to date only 28-year-olds. Who knew he would find 20 of them? Excuse me, my allergies as usual. John Adams, a forefather, predicted that a useless man, get this, is a shame. 2 is a law firm, and 3 or more is a Congress. Al Cap, the cartoonist, observed the following. Abstract art is the product of the untalented, sold by the unprincipled to the totally bewildered. Victor Borge, he was happily married, but his wife wasn't. Cracking wit of epigram and quip, riposte or retort, of comebacks and gotchas, nevermost snorts, all cavort with comforts when wit holds forth. Make no mistake, I love wits who react to rattle-shake like earthquakes, to put, say, a pin in an ego gone windy sirocco, such a celebrity pretense of gravity at our expense, gone loco. Wit is most often the end result of a life denied victimhood, preferring to hit back for self-hardihood. A case in point was W.C. Fields, well known as an American comedian, actor, juggler, and writer. He was the eldest of 5 children, quit school after 4 years to work with his father selling vegetables from a horse cart. At 11, after having many fights with his alcoholic father, including hitting his son on the head with a shovel, ran away from home. For a while he lived in a hole in the ground, depending on stolen food and clothing. He was often beaten and spent nights in jail. His first regular job was delivering ice. By age 13, he was a skilled pool player and juggler. Soon after, he was hired as an entertainer, and his life took a 180-degree turn. By 19, he was billed as a distinguished comedian and began opening bank accounts in every city he played. Though there's so much more, I'll end his run-through with just this singular reference. At 23, he opened at the Palace in London and played with Sarah Bernhardt at Buckingham Palace. He starred at the Folies Bergère. Charlie Chaplin and Maurice Chevalier were on the same program. Just goes to show you, when you avoid and self-deny complaint, you leap to another terrain, disdaining self-pity and its refrains. Now, here are some of Field's riotous quotes, some quite self-derogatory, which is the case with truly genuine comedians. For example, it was a woman who drove me to drink, and I never had the courtesy to thank her. They say, said Fields, that alcohol is very difficult to give up. Why, I've given it up thousands of times. Moreover, I use wine when I cook. Sometimes I even put it in the food. Here's another. Start every day with a smile and get it over with. A rich man is no more than a poor man with money. That one is certainly worth reflection. Anyone who hates children and animals can't be all bad. There comes a time in the affairs of man when he must take the bull by the tail and face the situation. I drink, therefore I am. I once spent a year in Philadelphia. I think it was on a Sunday. Fields snorted. There was no doubt that women were crazy. It's only a matter of degree. Horse sense is a thing a horse has, which keeps it from betting on people. When we have lost everything, including hope, life becomes a disgrace and death a duty. As I've said earlier, most great comedians are merciless critics of themselves. Will Rogers, great American humorist, remarked wisely that a comedian who takes himself seriously is finished as a man of comedy. I'm now thinking of Bill Maher, whose initials make his opinions trivial. B.M. in tandem with dunghill be his emblem in Requiem. Whereas Will Rogers, beloved cowboy humorist, was made infinitely popular by having stated that I never met a man I didn't like. That is a singular quality that I personally experienced thanks to one of the world's greatest artists and my very good friend, Alexander Rutsch. Whenever any of his 3 lovely daughters left for the day, he'd remind each to remember to smile. If you smile, my child, the world will smile back. Yes, the right thing to say may also be wordless, and its effect boundless, as would a painted phrase on a canvas, or the subtle tilt of a piece of sculpture. A meaningful pause after hearing a great musical interpretation by a respected artist, or telling silence after a loving kiss. Yes, many things said wordlessly possess a seamless stillness that becomes matchless. All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's his tragedy. Of all the splendid witticisms uttered or written by Oscar Wilde, that to me is the most confounding, requiring long reflection. Yes, Wilde was very much his mother's child. Jane Wilde had a salon which gathered the key thinkers of the day. W.B. Yeats, George Bernard Shaw, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and Robert Browning, and Eleanor Marx, Karl Marx's socialist daughter. Wilde's nurturing was most assuredly aesthetic. Nothing in life for him was more serious than art. When at Oxford, he was to be influenced by the great literary critics Walter Pater and John Ruskin, whose disparate philosophies were smoothly reconciled by Wilde's aesthetic evolution. Wilde must have had such people as Bill Maher in mind when using his critical scalpel on their inveterate practice of cynicism. A cynic, said Oscar, is a person who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. That is so true of the entitlement crowd, who sponge for food, housing, and medicine, child support, and anything else along with cohorts who venture to extort. Let us now enjoy Wilde's Irish wit, a nimble wit that never found the poet, novelist, and playwright nary a bit unfit. And so let's visit for a while. He advised, keep love in your heart. A life without it is like a sunless garden when the flowers are dead. Men always want to be a woman's first love. Women like to be a man's last romance. If you are not long, I will wait for you all my life. A gentleman is one who never hurts anyone's feelings unintentionally. Excuse me. Success is a science. If you have the right conditions, you get the result. The only thing to do with good advice is to pass it on. It is rarely of any use to oneself. Experience is one thing. You can't get for nothing. To expect the unexpected shows a thoroughly modern intellect. Women are made to be loved, not understood. Selfishness is not living as one wishes to live. It is wishing others to live as one wishes to live. I have the simplest tastes. I am always satisfied with the best. Life is never fair, and perhaps it is a good thing. For most of us, it is not indeed so. Beauty is the only thing that time cannot harm. Philosophies fall away like sand. Creeds follow one another, but what is beautiful is a joy for all seasons, a possession for all eternity. Oscar Wilde said, I can resist anything but temptation. And he said this, in America, the president reigns for 4 years, and journalism governs forever and ever. That could have been said as early as tomorrow and tomorrow. Wilde went on to say that seriousness is the only refuge of the shallow. A dreamer is one who can find his way by moonlight, and his punishment is that he sees the dawn before the rest of the world. Always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them as much. A little sincerity is a dangerous thing, and a great deal of it is absolutely fatal. When I was young, I thought that money was the most important thing in life. Now that I'm old, I know it is. There are only 2 tragedies in life. One is not getting what one wants, and the other is getting it. Work is the curse of the drinking classes. There's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. The old believe everything, the middle-aged suspect everything, the young know everything. Wilde said he liked men who had a future and women who had a past. Well, I'll conclude quoting Wilde only to quote Dorothy Parker about Wilde. If with the literate I'm impelled to try an epigram, I never seek to take the credit. We all assume that Oscar said it. Nevertheless, Dorothy had much to say that is memorable. She was an American poet, short story writer, critic, and satirist, best known for her wit, wisecracks, and eye for 20th century urban foibles. No, do listen to a few I've chosen. Beauty is only skin deep, but ugly goes clean down to the bone. She said, the first thing I do in the morning is brush my teeth and sharpen my tongue. This quip's become famous. Men seldom make passes at girls who wear glasses. The most beautiful words in the English language are check and closed. One more drink and I'll be under my host. I require 3 things in a man. He must be handsome, ruthless, and stupid. 4 be the things I'd have been better without: love, curiosity, freckles, and doubt. On suicide, razors pain you, rivers are damp, acid stains you, and drugs cause cramps. Guns aren't lawful. Nooses give. Gas smells awful. You might as well live. Time is a great healer, but a lousy beautician. Ah, yes, Dorothy was an authority. New York City's Algonquin Club, where great wits gathered for summit lunches. Thereat to tear apart for their shared amusement all the people who mattered. Thereat could be found Dorothy Parker and, oh yes, Robert Benchley, were inveterate habitués of the Algonquin group. Benchley, of course, was a celebrated American, best known for his work as a newspaper columnist and film actor. Let's sample a few of his salvos. "Drawing on my fine command of the English language," said Benchley, "I said nothing." Another self-deprecating wisecrack was the following, and I quote, "It took me 15 years to discover that I had no talent for writing, but I couldn't give it up because, by that time, I had become too famous." Would that our all too critical and dismal celebrities had the capacity to be self-mocking and reckoning instead of others damning, over and over examining. And now, my friends, time says that I must depart, and so I shall. And until next time, do seek to find some salvos for yourself. Farewell.
If you have any comments or other remarks, and that I perhaps could even read on some of these broadcasts, please do not hesitate to write to me, Carmine Arena, P.O. Box 1029, Larchmont, New York 10538.